Hello, this is Kate from Daily Tarot Girl, and welcome to my 2023 New Year's forecast tarot reading. So for this reading, I'm going to be using the Lightseers Tarot, one of my favorite decks, and I'm also going to be using my new tarot spread that I created for this year. It's called Calling In 2023. I'm going to show you that spread now. Basically, we're going to be looking at a few different areas for the year ahead. So this isn't really like a predictive forecast reading, as in like what's going to happen in 2023. It's more kind of looking at how we can make the most of the year ahead and what kinds of things are going to be really helpful to us, what's going to be important, what we need to keep in mind, what we need to focus on, how we can really kind of take advantage of the opportunities and energies coming up for us in 2023. So we're going to be looking at, what we are going to be creating this year, what we'll be exploring, what we'll be learning, what kinds of things need to change, what's going to be most helpful to us, what could get in our way and slow us down, what needs to be released, and what kinds of things need our attention and support. And I've also chosen an extra card to go right in the center of the reading, and that center card is going to represent the main theme, the overall kind of theme for 2023. Okay, so let's get ready. Let's dive in. Oh, and I should mention that if you want a copy of this spread that I'm using, I've posted it to my website, so you can have a look there. You can download it. I'm going to put the link just below this video if you want your own copy of this spread. All right, so let's get in. Let's dive into it. Make yourself comfy. Make yourself a drink. Let's dive in. So we're going to start with the first card. And the first card represents what we will be creating, what we're going to be focusing on creating in 2023. Okay, so let's turn over the first card. And for this first card, we got the Star. I'll just bring this closer so you can have a good look. This is one of my favorite cards in this deck. I absolutely adore the Star. Okay, so the Star is representing what we will be creating in 2023. And what really stands out for me with this card is the cord that she has kind of wrapped around her hands, and it's going up into the sky. It's like her link to the stars. And if you look closely at that cord, it kind of goes off into the shape of a wishbone, which makes me think about making wishes and hoping and dreaming. And I feel like overall, this card is showing that we will be creating kind of a link between ourselves and spirit, or ourselves and the spiritual realm or the universe. I feel like the sky, the universe, and in this card it almost looks like a UFO. I can't decide if it's a UFO or like a galaxy. Either way, either symbol kind of works. But I feel like this card represents our connection to the greater existence. So our connection to the big picture and the big story, and seeing ourselves as part of that, seeing ourselves as part of that story, part of that big picture. We might be a little part of it, but we're still a part of everything. And it's about kind of seeing the connections between everything and coming to that realization of the truth that everything is connected. And in a lot of ways, we are all kind of one. And so that cord to me is a symbol, and the star in general is a symbol to me of that connection between heaven and earth, or spirit and matter. It's that link to the spiritual realm, or that link to the greater universe. And so I think that is something that we will be focusing on creating, is strengthening that link. And of course, that's going to look different for everyone. Not everyone is going to experience it the same way. So for me, it may look like spending more time meditating and exploring those spiritual realms. For someone else, it might be, spending more time outside in nature, or spending more time doing art or something like that. Like, it's going to be different for everyone. I also think that this star represents hope and peacefulness. There is a real peacefulness with this card. And I think that that is something else that we're all going to be working on creating in our own way, is a sense of hope and a sense of peace within ourselves. And when we're able to cultivate those things within ourselves, we radiate them outward. And in that way, when I look at this card and I see that cord, I feel like it's about kind of tapping into the divine energy of all that is, the greater universe. I'm bringing that down into the physical earthly dimensions and radiating it out as hope and peace. All right. What else do I want to say about the star? I could go on and on about the star. The star overall has this message of everything is going to be okay. Everything is working out in the way that it needs to, and you will be okay no matter what. That's the overall message of the star in general, but it's not saying everything is perfect or everything is going to work out the way that you want or the way that you expect it to, but it's saying that not everything's going to work out the way you want it to. Not everything's going to feel perfect to you, but everything is working out in a particular order. There's a particular divine order to all the chaos. And even though you may not understand it now, it's all working out in the way that it needs to. And I think when we embrace that idea, there is this sense of relief and peacefulness that can come over us. And so that's kind of what I pick up with the star. So let's look at the next card. This next card is going to tell us what we're going to be exploring in 2023. And we have the King of Swords. And I actually really, really love the King of Swords in this card. I don't love the King of Swords in general, but when I get him in this deck, I actually really like him. I love all the birds, the owls, the ravens, and all that. All right, so the King of Swords is telling us what we're going to be exploring this year. The King of Swords represents having a clear mind. He knows how to clear his head, and it almost looks like he's hiked up to this high mountain peak. And when he's up on that mountain peak, he has kind of a bird's eye view. He can look down from the mountaintop and see everything. He can kind of see the big picture. When we're talking about the star, she's kind of looking upwards, and it's about kind of connecting to that greater story or that greater existence. With the King of Swords, he's up high and he's kind of looking down, getting that bird's eye view over everything. The King of Swords is very wise, and that's represented on this card by the owl. And we also have a number of crows, ravens, there's a bat. These are all birds that, or particularly the ravens and the owl, that represent, wisdom and intelligence. And the King of Swords is also about strategy and planning and being able to plan ahead. So what I'm really getting, the message I'm getting for us, is that we will be exploring this year different ways of clearing our mind so that we can get this, so that we can come to this place of clear-headedness. That's going to be really important this year. So having at least one or two activities or techniques for clearing your mind is going to be really, really helpful for you. This will be your superpower. So for me personally, and not to go on and on about meditation with every card, but I have a particular meditation practice that helps me clear my mind. But also getting outside for a walk will do it, or doing some writing or journaling will help me clear my mind. There's many different ways that you can clear your head. And this is about finding at least one or two things that help you clear your mind, that help you kind of rise above the drama and find kind of some order amongst the chaos. That's going to really be powerful for you this year. And also strategy and planning. This is a year to plan. This is a year to plan ahead, to strategize, to anticipate and think, okay, what might happen? What could happen? How can I plan for that? How can I prepare for that? Some years it's okay to just kind of fly by the seat of your pants and kind of go with the flow and be kind of airy-fairy about things and just see where the wind takes you. But this is a year for actually looking ahead and preparing and planning. That's really going to serve you well this year. And really getting in touch with that, with your inner wisdom and with your inner, King of Swords. The more you explore that wise, rational, clear-headed part of yourself, the more you can really strategize and take advantage of the opportunities that come up for you this year. One more thing that I want to mention is I feel like the King of Swords represents you exploring, having a new kind of relationship with your mind. So if in the past you felt overwhelmed with thoughts or you felt like being in your head was a stressful kind of experience, the King of Swords invites you to have a new kind of relationship with your intellect and your mind, a more healthier one. Okay, let's have a look at this next card. So this card is going to tell us what we will be focusing on learning this year in 2023. And we have the Fool. Okay, so I'm going to bring this card in so you can have a really good look at it. It's a beautiful, beautiful card. The Fool is a card about new beginnings and starting something new, starting a new chapter. So I think for some of us, we will be learning how to start fresh, how to start a new chapter, how to embark on an adventure with a certain sense of optimism and fearlessness. But for many of us, we'll be learning how to really just let go and trust more than anything. So the person on the Fool, she's kind of leaning backwards and she has her arms wide open and her eyes are closed and she's looking up to the sky. And it's almost like she's trying to tune into her own intuition and tune into kind of some sort of spiritual guidance to figure out what direction to go in. But she's open, she's receptive. And this is something that we're going to be focusing on learning this year, is how to be more open, how to be more receptive, and how to be more trusting, not necessarily trusting of other people, but trusting of life in general. And how to kind of sort of let go and allow things to fall into place. And it's interesting that she is next to the King of Swords, because the King of Swords is not a card of letting go. It's more a card of figuring things out and planning and having a strategy. So there is this need to kind of balance out those two sides. The need to be rational and wise and plan ahead and be practical and all that, but also to be able to be open to guidance and to be able to kind of go with the flow a little bit, to kind of let go and trust in the process of life. Okay, let's have a look at card number 4. Okay, so card number 4 is going to tell us what needs to change, what really wants to change this year. And here we have the 9 of Pentacles. Now this is an interesting card, and I should have mentioned at the beginning of the reading, I've peeked at all of these cards ahead of time. Normally when I read on my channel, I like to just kind of improv it. I don't look at the cards ahead of time, but in this case, because there were so many cards, I really wanted to kind of know what cards were coming up. So when I first looked at this on my own, I was like, 9 of Pentacles, what does this mean? It kind of confused me at first. And so I spent a little bit of time with this card, and what I got from it is that the 9 of Pentacles wants you to change how you relate to your body and to money and just kind of the physical realm in general. So I'll explain that in a minute, but first I want to talk about a little bit more about what the Nine of Pentacles represents. So the Nine of Pentacles is about feeling comfortable and at ease in relation to the material realm. So in relation to money, finances, physical health, your body. This is about really just feeling at home with yourself, feeling comfortable, like you don't have to stress or strive. You have everything you need. You're not stressed out. You have leisure time. You have time and space to just stop and smell the roses and be in the moment. And I feel like, to me, it feels like this time right now, a lot of people are stressing about finances and about money. And I've noticed like inflation, interest rates, all of that is causing quite a bit of stress. So initially this card was kind of confusing for me. I'm like, what is this card trying to say? And this card is saying that the Nine of Pentacles really wants you to have a new kind of relationship to money and to your body. And I'm trying to think of a way to kind of explain this better or illustrate it. There is such a joyfulness with the Nine of Pentacles if you look at this woman and her facial expressions. And like the Fool, her arms are open wide. So she's receptive, she's open. She looks very joyful and she's reaching up, she's looking upwards. And notice that the star, both the Star, the Fool, and this card, everyone's looking up to the sky and she's kind of reaching upwards. And there is this white bird. I don't know if it's a dove or what it is, but it's got its arms open and it looks like it's either just landed or it's about to take off. And so there is this lightness and this joyfulness with this card. And to me, the Nine of Pentacles is about luxuriating in the present moment and really enjoying being in a physical body, enjoying food, being out in the fresh air, sunlight on your skin, like those really sensual kinds of sensations and pleasures, like really being present and being in the moment and enjoying that. I feel like the message is about creating a sense of relaxation and ease around your relationship to money and your relationship to your body, and really just your relationship to, I guess, the physical realm in general. So think about how you might do that. What kinds of things might help you cultivate those feelings? This is about feeling at home, feeling relaxed, in your own skin, being able to enjoy some of the physical things in life. So again, to recap, this card represents what wants to change and the way that you relate to your body and the way that you relate to money as well, and the material realm, and just the way you relate to abundance wants to change. It wants to feel more relaxed and more joyful. And I'm not sure, like I'm kind of racking my brain. I'm like, how do I do that? So I'm gonna take that idea and I might journal on it. I might think about it. So I invite you to do the same. If it doesn't make sense right away, you know, contemplate that. Okay, let's look at the center card. So the center card represents the main theme of 2023 overall. And here we have the Queen of Swords. Now we already got the King of Swords, and at the end of the reading I'm going to talk about what that means when we have kind of a pair like this. But I want to just focus on the Queen of Swords right now. So the Queen of Swords, like the King of Swords, she's all about clarity and mental focus and getting a clear head. And I also see her as being about getting comfortable with kind of cutting through confusion and not being afraid to cut things loose. So I see the Queen of Swords as being kind of like the Marie Kondo of the tarot. So if you ever saw that Marie Kondo show where she goes into people's homes and she's like, you got to get rid of this, you got to get rid of this, you got to be ruthless in getting rid of things that you don't use or that, aren't useful to you anymore. I feel like the Queen of Swords is kind of ruthless in that sense, in that she goes through her life and she doesn't allow clutter to accumulate. So it could be physical clutter that she's good at getting rid of. It could be mental clutter. I mean, God knows, we all have a lot of mental clutter going on that doesn't need to be there. Emotional clutter. There's all different ways that clutter can accumulate in the different areas of our lives. And the Queen of Swords needs to have a clear head. She needs to be unencumbered. She wants to move through life like a sharp sword or a knife, just slicing through, going forward. So the theme of 2023, I think that we will need to get comfortable with cutting certain things loose, things that are kind of weighing on us, that are maybe dragging us down, really doing an inventory of all the different areas of your life and thinking, okay, what it feels kind of unnecessary, what feels frivolous, what is really sucking my energy, what is not that important, what is just creating chaos, and really kind of get organized and kind of clear the clutter in a way. The Queen of Swords is very sensible and practical, and she has this certain directness. And so as a theme for 2023, I feel like in some ways 2023 will feel in some ways like a wake-up year. Like I look at the Queen of Swords and there's a chilliness to this, but not in an uncomfortable way. It's like when you get up in the morning and you step outside and it's a cold, crisp, clear morning and you breathe in that fresh air and suddenly your head is just very clear and you're kind of wide awake. It's that kind of a wake up. It's not like a freezing cold bucket of water being dumped on you first thing in the morning. It's not like that. It's like this really nice kind of refreshing kind of a wake up where you're suddenly clear-headed. You have this kind of clarity. I feel like for many of us, 2023 will be a year where that starts to happen. And I think that developing some of the qualities that the Queen of Swords has will be very necessary for us as we move through this year. Let's look at the next card. So this card is going to tell us what will be most helpful to us this year. And we have the Ten of Cups. Okay. So the Ten of Cups is a very warm, fuzzy card. This is a card about dreams coming true and having your goals finally realized. The message I get when I look at this card is that dreams can't come true if you don't have them. So in order for a dream to come true, you have to have the dream in the first place. And another message I get is, don't be afraid to dream. And I know that with the King of Swords and the Queen of Swords, I talk about being practical and sensible and logical, but you have to also be willing to dream. So don't be afraid to have dreams this year. Sometimes I am afraid too. Like I see people getting excited for the new year and I have kind of this jaded, pessimistic attitude and I'm afraid to have certain goals and dreams. But the message I get with this card is don't be afraid to do that. We have to be able to dream and have dreams. And what's most important here is cultivating positive feelings. That's going to be another superpower this year. I think I said the first superpower was with the King of Swords. I said about being able to clear your mind. The second superpower is about feeling, and it's being able to cultivate really warm, fuzzy, positive feelings. So I get the sense that love and connection, which is what the Ten of Cups also represents, it represents family, feeling a sense of belonging, feeling a sense of like coming together and connection. Those are things that are going to be really helpful for you. So if you have close friendships or family connections, you really want to nurture those things and value those things. If you have a relationship, with someone really valuing that and really nurturing that, because that's going to be a real source of strength for you this year. If you don't have those things, if you feel like your relationships and family connections and friendships are kind of lacking, this is a year to focus on cultivating more of that and bringing in more of that. So that's a noble goal to have, or a focus to have, is bringing in more of a sense of community and connection. And it can obviously take a lot of time to establish those connections, but getting started, start where you are, because that's going to be really important, I think, later on down the road. So just to recap, one of the biggest things that's going to help you this year is being able to dream and have a positive vision of the future, and have a positive vision for yourself. And as you imagine this, you want to cultivate the emotion and the warm, fuzzy feelings associated with that dream and that vision. That's what's going to add fuel to it. So that's going to be a really important thing that's going to bring a sense of hope and peace to you as you move through this year. And again, this is kind of going to be like a superpower, something you can touch on and tap back into when you need to as you move through 2023. All right, so let's have a look at the bottom row of cards. Okay, so this next card we're going to turn over is going to tell us if there's anything that might get in the way this year. What kinds of blocks or things might get in the way and cause issues for us. And the card we have here is the Ace of Pentacles. And when I first turned this card over, I was like, what on earth is this card trying to say to me? Because this is such a wonderful, positive card. And because we got the Fool, which is also a card of new beginnings, the Ace of Pentacles is a card of fresh starts and new beginnings as well. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about that theme towards the end of the reading. But first, let's focus on the Ace of Pentacles. So what I get from this card is that there's going to be a lot of new beginnings this year and a lot of planting of seeds. So you will be getting fresh ideas for things. You may be starting a lot of projects. You may be embarking on new journeys in new directions. And when that happens, things are always most vulnerable in their infancy. So think about a seed that has just sprouted and just started to produce little roots. It's at its most vulnerable. It really needs the right conditions to thrive. And if it doesn't get those conditions, it will shrivel and die. And so you always want to kind of baby your seeds when you first plant them. So if you have a dream or a vision or a project that you've just started or a new idea for something, you want to really treat it with care and protect it, because it's most vulnerable when it's new and when it's young. Now, I've had this experience many times where I get an idea for something and then I share it with a friend or a family member, and I'm really excited about it. And it's an idea maybe I just had, a few days ago, and I'm like, oh, listen to this. I have this great idea for a new project. And the person I tell won't really mirror my enthusiasm. They might just be like, oh, okay, yeah, that sounds cool. Or they might have actual criticism about my idea. And because my idea is so young, it just crushes it and it just kills it right there. And then I'm no longer motivated to pursue that particular thing. So that's just an example of how vulnerable our ideas are and our projects are when they're young, when they're new. So that is kind of what could get in the way this year, is not appropriately protecting your new ideas, your dreams, your visions, sharing it with the wrong people or sharing it too soon, or sharing it when you yourself are not fully confident in that dream or that vision or that project yet. So that's just something to keep in mind. The other thing is that the other thing that could get in the way this year is that the environment is not right for certain things. So maybe you have an idea for something, or you want to start a new business or whatever, or you want to start a new relationship or whatever. But the environment is just not conducive to doing that. And so that can be a block to moving forward. So that's something to consider. Is this the right environment to do this thing? Will this environment support whatever it is I want to create or do? Okay, let's look at this next card. Okay, so this card represents what needs to be released this year. So what we can let go of as we enter 2023. And here we have Eight of Wands. Now, Eight of Wands is really a card of speed and things unfolding quickly. And I took this to mean letting... My girl Merlina is going to participate in the reading now. So I took this card to mean kind of letting go of a need for speed. Any kind of impatience that you have, this desire for things to happen more quickly than they are, this is what you can start to let go of. So letting go of impatience or that need for speed. Even the desire to kind of chase thrills, kind of letting go of that as much as you can. As you let go of the need for things to happen quickly, as you let go of any kind of impatience, you actually might find things actually start to happen quickly. So it's like your impatience and your desire for things to happen smoothly and quickly sometimes acts as a little bit of a block. It can create a sense of tension around whatever it is you're trying to do. And so as you become a little more relaxed and not really in a big hurry, you might find that the process of making things happen actually goes more smoothly and more quickly than if you're stressing about how fast things are moving. So that's what I took this to really mean, this sort of releasing and letting go. But what's interesting now that I'm looking at this card, it's funny because the interpretation I just gave you was the interpretation I got the first time I looked at these cards. Now that I'm looking at them a second time, I'm getting new information. New things are coming to me. So as I look at the Eight of Wands, I'm noticing all these wands are, it's like they all got released at the same time and they're all going in like to a point. They're all going in kind of one direction. And so the Eight of Wands, there is like this energy of releasing. It's like you have goals, intentions, and actions that you want to make, and you let those go, you release them, and so they kind of shoot forward. So another another interpretation of this card, in addition to the first one I gave about kind of letting go of impatience and being more relaxed when it comes to timelines and things like that, is that there's certain intentions that you have, certain desires that you have, things that you're passionate about, that are important to you, certain goals you have, and it's high time that you kind of release them. And I don't mean release as in get rid of them, like forget about them. I don't mean like that, but I mean there's certain actions that need to be taken, and once you take them, it's going to feel a lot better. It's like you unburden yourself by taking that action. Sending that letter, sending that email, reaching out to that person, making that phone call, taking that first step. It's like there's a bunch of arrows that kind of, it's like you've got a bow and arrow and there's certain arrows that you need to shoot and kind of release out into existence as we step into 2023. Okay, so let's look at the last card. So this card is going to tell us what needs our attention and support right now. And here we have Temperance, another major arcana card. So we started with the Star, a major arcana card, and we're ending with another one, with Temperance. Okay, so Temperance is, this is a card of balance, but when I first turned this card over and looked at it, the message I got was one of sobriety, this idea of being sober. Now that could be literally like, staying away from drugs and alcohol, being sober in that sense. But there's so many other ways that we can make ourselves numb to things and distracted. And so even if we're not drinking or doing drugs, we aren't necessarily sober. If we're, you know, addicted to other things that kind of numb us and we're not really fully present. I mean, the idea of being sober is kind of like being awake, aware, present, alert, paying attention, right? You're all there. When you're not sober, you're not all there, right? Things are kind of fuzzy for you. So this idea of sobriety, this is what I get from temperance. Now, temperance is about walking the middle path and finding a sense of balance, walking the middle ground, not doing anything in the extreme, being temperate. And this is what really needs our support this year, is walking the middle path and avoiding any extremes. And now I see why when I was talking about the Eight of Wands, I said you want to release the need for speed or thrills, you know, chasing thrills. Now it kind of makes a little more sense with temperance, because temperance is really about supporting this idea of being temperate, creating balance, walking that middle path. There's a real yin-yang energy to this card. On one side we have the moon, and the other side we have the sun. And so there's many different ways we could talk about this. I feel like the moon is more inward focused, kind of quiet energy. It's like going to bed at night and resting, closing your eyes. The sun is like when you wake up in the morning, you open your eyes and there's a frenzy of activity and action, and more outward focused, kind of extroverted energy. And so there needs to be a nice balance between these things. It may not be a 50-50 balance. You know, you don't need to sleep 50% of the time and be awake 50% of the time. We sleep roughly 8 hours, so, you know, a third of the time. So yeah, so temperance, I think, is telling us that this is what we really want to support in our lives in 2023. And I almost feel like this is kind of a boring message in a way, like supporting this idea of creating balance and walking the middle path. But it's going to help us in so many other areas. And here I'm going to zoom out a little bit so we can see all the cards together. Because I think that as we embrace this idea of temperance, it's going to help us when it comes to that King and Queen of Swords like energy. Oops. Okay, just bear with me, sorry. I'm kind of clunky when it comes to adjusting my camera. Okay, so here we are with all of the cards together. So you can see them all at once. This is a beautiful spread of cards. And I was kind of struck by the complete lack of what I call challenge cards. There's no, you know, overly negative or intense or difficult cards in this spread. These are all really bright, happy cards. These are all cards that I love. I love the energy of all these cards. So I was really struck by that. So a few themes that I want to mention here. First of all, I'll draw attention to the three majors. We have the Star, the Fool, and Temperance. So I always like to start by looking at, you know, was there any major arcana cards in the reading? How many? Which ones were they? And I kind of read them sort of together. And I feel like with all of them, really, like especially the Star and the Fool, both of these figures are looking upwards towards the sky. And I feel like both of these are about making some sort of connection to spirit and having this sense of trust and being able to just let go and trust in life. When it comes to the Star, it's about kind of connecting to spirit and having a sense of hope and peacefulness. And when it comes to the Fool, it's about being open to life and guidance and trusting that the guidance you get in the direction that you feel pulled in is the right direction. And Temperance also has, in some ways, an otherworldly feel with the angel wings. We get this sense of being supported and guided by this sort of angelic presence. Now, another card, a card pairing that I want to draw your attention to is the Ace of Pentacles and the Fool. So both of these cards are about starting something new, a new beginning or a new journey. The Fool, being a major arcana card, I feel has a more powerful sort of message in that regard, whereas the Ace of Pentacles is more down to earth, kind of day-to-day life sort of new beginnings, planting a seed, starting a new project, whereas the Fool might be about getting a new calling or something big, going on a big grand adventure or journey. So I do see that 2023 for many of us, there's going to be lots of opportunities to start something new, to start something fresh, to go in a different direction, to start a new project. You might get lots of ideas and inspirations for various things. So lots of new beginnings, or at least opportunities for new beginnings. Let's talk about the King and Queen of Swords. Now I actually want to bring these two to the forefront here. I'm going to put them side by side. So I always think it's interesting when you get actually let's zoom in a little on these two. I always think it's interesting when you get a king and a queen in a reading, and it's even more interesting when that king and queen is from the exact same suit. I think that's even more powerful. So when there's a king and a queen like this, their energy and their message is amplified. It's even more strong. And I feel like by embodying the energies of this couple, King and Queen of Swords, this is what is going to help us navigate this year in the best possible way. So the King and Queen of Swords, in some ways they are contemplative. They can be a little bit serious. They're contemplative characters though. They're very in their heads, they're intellectual, they're rational, they're very practical and logical. And both of them have a very clear mind. So again, I know I already talked about this with the King of Swords, but finding a way to really clear your head and clear your mind of busyness and clutter is going to be really important this year. Being able to tap into your practical and logical side is also going to be important this year. Also, these two are really good at communicating in a very clear, concise, and direct way. This will serve you well. This isn't a year to be super wordy when it comes to like the emails that you send or letters you write or conversations you have. I feel like less is more when it comes to communication. So trying to sort of trim down the amount of words that you use, whether it's written or verbal communication, being really concise and saying what you mean, not beating around the bush. Clearing clutter. This is another important theme with this couple. These two, they like to move through life feeling clear, direct, and unencumbered. So getting rid of clutter. And again, I already talked about this with, I think when I talked about the Queen of Swords, clearing clutter and having a strategy, having some kind of plan or strategy, again, is the message with these two. So that's really going to serve you well as well. Okay, so let's put these two back where they were. Now, I also mentioned that a lot of these figures were looking skyward. So we have the Fool, the Star, Nine of Pentacles. They're all kind of looking upward. Even the Queen of Swords kind of has her chin sort of tilted upward just a little bit. And it's this idea of looking upward for guidance or ideas, this connection to spirit that came through in a lot of these cards. There's also a theme of birds and wings. So we have the angel wings with Temperance. We have the wings of the bird on the Nine of Pentacles. And then, of course, the King of Swords has a bunch of different winged creatures in that card. So I want you to ask yourself, what does that represent for you? The birds and the wings and the taking flight, what might that represent? I feel like it represents... oh, there's even a bird in the Queen of Swords as well. I almost missed that one. So I feel like the wings are about spreading your wings. And if we look at the Fool, she's spreading her arms wide, like they're a pair of wings. So spreading your wings, being able to soar above things, being able to fly. There's a sense of taking flight, of freedom. So I think that that's a really beautiful symbol to appear on many of the cards. So some really nice messages that actually have me feeling hopeful and excited about the year ahead. The last couple years have been kind of tricky for a lot of people, I think. They've been challenging years, and so I always hesitate to get excited about a new year because sometimes I get excited and then I get disappointed. But this year I feel a little more hopeful. But I want to just give a quick recap of this reading, starting with the star. So the star is telling us that the thing we're focusing on creating is kind of that link between spirit and matter, spirit and earth, that link, that spiritual cord, that spiritual link. The King of Swords tells us that we will be exploring developing a new relationship with our minds, really tapping into inner wisdom and getting better at clearing our heads so that we can actually hear that inner wisdom and guidance. Doesn't get drowned out by all the anxious chatter. The Fool tells us that we're going to be learning all about starting a new journey and letting go and trusting as we embark on this fresh start. The Nine of Pentacles is telling us what wants to change. And what wants to change is the way in which we relate, the relationship we have to our bodies and our finances. That is what wants to change. And it feels like it wants to change. It wants to become more joyful and more like at ease, more relaxed, which is easier said than done. So I'm curious how I'm going to do that in my own life. Queen of Swords being the main theme of 2023 is telling us that one of the most powerful things we can do this year is take the kind of Marie Kondo approach to the various areas of our lives and clear a lot of clutter. And I don't mean necessarily cutting people. I'm not talking about cutting out relationships unless that's something you really want to do. But I mean like cutting out the distractions in our life. And I think of my own life, and there's lots of things that I find distracting. There's a lot of physical clutter in my environment at the moment. And maybe even a bit of emotional and mental clutter. So it's about kind of simplifying things and clearing a lot of that. And then with the Ten of Cups, this is such a beautiful card. This is telling us what is going to help us the most. Having a positive vision of the future. Don't be afraid to dream and really cultivate those positive feelings, as well as nurturing your existing relationships and maybe even focusing on creating new relationships. The Ace of Pentacles at the bottom here is telling us what could get in the way. And what could get in the way is that our dreams, our new plans and ideas and inspirations are vulnerable when they're young. So we want to be really careful who we share that with and how we treat those things. The Eight of Wands is telling us what needs to be released. Being in a big rush, being super impatient, but also being willing to take action on the things that are important and to release that email or that letter or text or whatever, to put it out there, take action towards the things that are important to you. And last but not least, we have Temperance. Temperance is telling us what needs our support and our attention, and Temperance is saying that our sobriety, being kind of clear-headed, again, there's that clear-headedness, being aware and awake and clear and all there, being fully present and walking the middle path, walking that grounded path, avoiding any extremes. That is something to be really supported and cultivated in our lives. All right, so that has been your 2023 yearly tarot forecast reading. So I hope you enjoyed this reading. I hope it gave you lots of ideas and lots of inspiration and hope for the year ahead. thank you so much for watching. You can find out more about tarot card reading on my website, dailytarotgirl.com. I'll put the link below this video. If you haven't liked and subscribed already, please do so. And please leave me a comment. What did you think of this video? What aspect of this video excites you the most? What part did you really relate to? I'd love to hear your thoughts. So thanks again for watching, and I'm wishing you all the best in 2023.